In this week's episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, Panda launches a bunny rabbit, Megumi flexes his abs, Kirara commits several animal safety violations, and Hakari gets jump scared by a child. Oh, and we see this guy too. Yay. I'm guessing this is probably going to be another controversial episode of JJK, but I wouldn't know because I've chosen to make this video before checking the negativity-riddled cesspool that is the internet. I say this because, like the Tengen episode, episode 6 of JJK requires basic reading ability and an IQ above room temperature to actually understand. Actually, to be fair, that's a bit harsh, because I didn't even really understand Kirara's technique at first either, but then again, I've never claimed to have an IQ above room temperature, so suck it, I guess. Director Goshizono and his incredibly talented team yet again took on some creative liberties when adapting this episode, which obviously are mostly for the best. I'll start breaking it down in a moment, but first I just want to glaze the music and sound design in this episode specifically, because holy hell, as if Yuji's Cog speech to Hakari wasn't already amazing in the manga, the anime just pushed it up to a completely different level for me. Even the tension between Megumi and Kirara was like massively elevated to a totally new level simply because of a few simple but very impactful sound design and music choices, which I feel like is a recurring theme throughout the season so far, that the music and sound design game has really stepped up. Anyway, sorry, I'm gonna stop yapping about that now. Let's just get right into it. So like, subscribe, and yeah. Oh my god, bro. The silent pan across to Megumi just aura farming inside of a dude's shadow to start off an episode is actually crazy. The way his face lights up from the dude's lighter, oh my god, it's so peak. But dude, that guy is just an NPC. Like, why is Megumi looking at him like he's just mowed down an orphanage or something? I don't know, man, this Jujutsu clearly gets serious. Now, Megumi honestly thinks he's Sun Jinwoo, and you know what? I'm not even gonna hate on it, because when was the last time you saw Sun Jinwoo dive into a dude's shadow like that? Oh, it's so cool. Honestly, this just makes me want to call Megumi a fraud even more, because I need him to be using this side of his technique in the rest of the series, please. While he's busy aura farming though, Panda's out here pretending to be, well, a panda.
He's a panda. You're a panda.
Once the fodder were dealt with, Megumi and Panda make it onto the set of today's episode, a rooftop car park with Hakari's monitor room placed in the corner. Kirara passes underneath them and they make eye contact, which means now they obviously have to fight. However, Megumi's Divine Dog Totality gets flung right back at him once Kirara marked it with her curse technique, because that's kind of how that works. I'll explain it more in a second, maybe. But can we please just take a minute to appreciate how unbelievably cool Totality looks? Bro, that's not even a dog anymore, he's just standing upright like a whole ass dude looking like that one Ben 10 alien. It's so cool. Before the fight properly gets started, Megumi tries reasoning with Kirara and telling her the situation, but obviously she ain't buying it because the concept of Satoru Gojo being sealed is just straight up incomprehensible. Like seriously, there was no doubt on Kirara's face. The possibility of that being true didn't even cross her mind because Gojo is really just that guy. So, look, right, this is obviously just a simple conversation between Megumi and Kirara. The animators could have just had it be a normal face-to-face confrontation and no one would bat an eye, but director Goshizono and his team are just not having it. They still chose to do the absolute most possible to make this dialogue-heavy episode into a proper treat. There was no need for this dramatic slow-mo pan or for this completely amazing but totally unnecessary dynamic perspective of Kirara literally just standing still. But they chose to do it anyway, which is why JJK is so goated and why the adaptation gets so much praise. Now, I think this fight is really dope because it's not actually a fight, like no hands are really thrown. As it normally is for Megumi's best moments, it's a game of strategy and intelligence, which, because it's Gege writing it, often means a lot of dialogue and overly complex explanations that I think Mappa actually did a pretty good job of adapting. I think the team genuinely handled this specific fight as well as they possibly could have, by basically making the dialogue and explanation heavy moments much easier to understand with simple diagrams, and then keeping the viewers engaged in between these moments by dialing up the animation to 11. The entire first half of this episode feels like it goes through this constant cycle of explanation and then well animated action and then more explanation and then more well animated action. Like sure, they didn't need to be making these stupidly dynamic, almost Utapon-esque scenes for a fight like this one, but doing so is a really great way of keeping your attention because of how dialogue heavy the rest of it can get. Okay, maybe I haven't really explained this in the best possible way, but I can summarize by saying the episode was structured and storyboarded really well so that we didn't get bored. That's basically the gist of it. We might have been confused with the information, sure, but not bored. At least I definitely wasn't. Anyway, Megumi tests out his hypothesis by using his rabbits and seeing what they can reach. He then comes to the conclusion that Kirara marks cursed energy with a star from a specific constellation, and then later on in the episode he works out that in order to reach a location marked with a star, you need to first go past all of the other stars in the correct order. That's the bare bones basics of it, but don't ask me more than that because it just breaks my brain every time I put too much thought into it. I don't know, like, go watch the episode. I'm not here to break down how the technique works. I want to glaze the animation. Now, from the moment this fight began in the anime, the OST just started absolutely cooking. Like, so far in season 3, the music has definitely been very bold. It's very brave choices, but I'm really appreciating it so far. It is working. And God, I love the tension built by that synthetic vroom sound when Megumi tests Kirara's reaction to saying her technique resembles the Southern Cross. That this was definitely a highlight for me. That little vroom was just, it added such a nice little element that I didn't think that scene even really needed. Directly after this scene, we also get a really wholesome anime-only visual of Megumi's sister Sumiki showing Megumi the Southern Cross when they were kids. And honestly, watching that one little, it's genuinely like a second long, but watching that one little scene made me like feel really strange because it looked so far removed from JJK. I hope they do more stuff like this because even Gege himself has acknowledged the slight lack of substance from Sumiki and Megumi's relationship. Also, I'm sorry, but what the f is Panda doing, bruv? Like, you guys ask why I hate on Panda, but what did he actually contribute to this fight besides being a test dummy for Megumi? I mean, later on in the episode, once Kirara's technique is exposed, he still decides to try and throw a card that Kirara draws to him. Why? Because he's a f***ing idiot, bruv, that's why. The scene of Panda actually throwing the card, though, wow, I love that. I really love that scene. The camera movement in this episode and the way it tracks Megumi vaulting the handrail, it just looks so clean. Even just these simple visuals of Megumi are beautiful. Anyway, Panda takes a trip into the sky and then, wait, coin! Look, Kirara's doing... if you know, you know, man. If you know, you know. But look, that's coin. I must sound like a crazy person to you guys. Read Kagurabachi, man, it's peak. And damn, like, I know Kirara is cool, but what the hell are these Mappa dudes thinking giving her aura like that? She's moving like Gojo with blue. I mean, that was beyond a speed blitz. That was just straight up ultra transmission. Or something. I don't know, man. I've never watched Dragon Ball, innit? Kirara then does some Magneto-type shenanigans on the car to try and straight up murder Megumi, but the divine dog that has been lying in wait behind the wall is then launched towards Megumi with Kirara standing directly in the way, exactly as he planned. Megumi dies out of the car, subdues Kirara who cancelled her technique, and then the car f***ing explodes for hype moments and aura reasons. Enough of all that though, let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about Kinji, Hakari, and Yuji Itadori. Bosh, car blows up, Kirara finally agrees to help, and Yuji gets his shit absolutely rocked by this wife-beater wearing behemoth of a man. I always thought Gege draws Hakari in a way that makes him look kind of small and stubby, but god damn, the anime makes this dude look like an absolute monster. Something else I really like compared to the manga as Hakari just wails on Yuji here, is that Hakari's face is way more expressive than in the manga. He seems way more, way more passionate, I guess. And the music and the lighting in this scene are just, they're so peak. Like, they create such a tense and emotional atmosphere, especially the music later on when we see Yuji get back up to give his Cog speech. Just before Yuji gives his speech though, Hakari actually has his own little bit of very cool and underrated dialogue. He basically says Yuji is boring because being a cog that exercises curses simply because that's what he's been told to do isn't passionate at all, and that Principal Yaga was meant to weed out people like him from the school. It's in the manga too, but I love this little throwaway comment from Hakari because he's right. Yaga did test Yuji way back in the beginning of the series to see if he had passion or if he was just becoming a sorcerer because that's what he was told to do. What takes Hakari properly by surprise though is that even with his sharp cursed energy and insane striking power, he cannot get this cog that is Yuji Itadori to stay down. Oh, and yeah, Hakari's got a cursed energy trait that makes his cursed energy feel sharp. I low-key thought his cursed energy would also be a different color, but it seems to just be blue. That might change later on in Jackpot, but who knows. Hakari absolutely decimates Yuji with a strong punch and then turns around to talk to Kirara. But he clearly hasn't watched the show, because if it's just pain, then Yuji Itadori will never quit. Right, Yuji pulls up behind Hakari and straight up jump scares that man. I've never seen Hakari back away from anyone like that before, so props to Yuji for being the first and the last person to do it. Yuji then delivers his incredible cog speech about how he's a cog, but he's a cog with a purpose, and he will not stray from that purpose until the day he dies. He must exercise curses no matter what. I don't know if any of you guys are reading JJK Modulo, but wow, this hits like 10 times harder now. Damn. His voice actor smashed it, and I love how deadpan Yuji's expression and voice are here. Like, there's no actual emotion behind it, he's just stating a fact. Kirara then chimes in to help Hakari realize that Yuji Itadori is actually a cog with passion. He is a cog with the fever, and for that reason, he's worth hearing out. The episode ends with Kugane pulling up to declare to Yuji Itadori specifically, who is already a player due to Sukuna, that another player has added a rule allowing for player information to be shared. And I've just said player way too much. This rule was added by none other than the mythical Edo-era farmer himself, Hajime Kashimo. The only downside of this episode is that for whatever reason, Gojo decided to remove Kashimo's introduction panel where he's staring through some poor dude's donutted torso. Yeah, I really like that moment, but whatever. Instead, we just kind of see him in this weird crouching position under a bridge staring at the no-name droid that he seemingly just blasted. For anime onlys, I'm not going to speak about this guy too much, like, you're just going to have to wait and see. But for you manga readers, here's a cool little detail that you might have missed. You can actually see strands of gas or steam coming from the lake that he's sitting in, due to the, effect that his cursed energy trait has on the water, which is also probably what makes his star flare up as well. It's just another example of how much attention to detail Gojo and his team are putting into this series, man. But yeah, banger episode and the final prep episode before we finally jump into the actual culling games. And trust me, if you thought it was good now, oh my god, you have not seen anything yet. So as always, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out memberships, blah blah blah. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.